So sings my soul. Praise my God of love and life. So sings my soul. The joy.
And think, here I am, This is us. We are unique, and we have a gift to give, and our joy in life is to be giving that gift. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We are all given gifts at birth, and these are the special talents that we have to express who we are and to give back to humanity, really. It's the God spark within us, and our life really is about discovering all that we can about what that spark is and how to express it. So today, I want to share with you ideas about how we can be conscious in how we develop our talents and how we give them to the world for our own satisfaction and for the good of the world, actually. We don't have a free pass through life, but we learn as we go along what our talents are and how we can express them and be more fully alive in doing so. Hopefully, we'll be able to reflect in this time we have together on our own lives, each of you, as I'm sharing a little bit about my journey and my self-understanding as I've gone along, not so that you will know about me, but so that you'll have a chance to think about yourself and reflect on your own life. So we'll look at the journey of self-discovery and the role of what I would say optimism, creativity, and perseverance in being able to express ourselves and give that gift to life. As we go from childhood into adulthood, we learn what our gifts are, what our talents are, although we're not really consciously thinking of it in that way. But we naturally gravitate toward things that interest us. And usually those things that interest us are things that we are pretty good at. And those actually are our gifts. We find that we're able to do some things easily and often wonder why other people aren't able to do them as easily. But then we look at other people and say, how come that's so easy for them and I can't do it, And it is, of course, we have to have certain basic skills as we go through life. Maybe as a child, reading isn't our strong point, but we have to learn to read. We have to learn to do certain things to survive in the world. But as we move along, we learn not to spend the most of our time trying to get better at what we're not good at, but excelling at what we're already gifted at. And that is really the joy of life. As children, we find that there's certain subjects in school that we like, that we don't mind doing, or maybe we love recess because we love sports, and that's a talent. That is something that we can look at later. It's those early inclinations of what we want to do are like seeds that are beginning to sprout and grow into the mature person. And all of those seeds are within us now. And sometimes we have talents that we have sort of forgotten about, that sprouted in childhood and then it got forgotten. But when I think back to my childhood and I think about what did I really like to do, for some reason, third grade really stands out in my mind. And I really didn't even particularly like my teacher. She was kind of mean, I thought. And my mother had her too. And she said, yeah, and she was old when I had her too, and she was mean then too. But the wonderful thing was, and it gave me some pause to think later, that even though her personality was kind of difficult for me, and apparently for my mother too, she was a good teacher, and she gave us some amazing experiences. We lived in Riverside, and if you can imagine, one January it snowed in Riverside, and it didn't stay on the ground very long, but I remember she had a cast iron pot that she brought into the playground. She built a fire, and she made soap in that pot. What an incredible experience, So for me, she was planting the seeds of an idea of creation, what you can make and what you can do, and that's something that was in me that I really loved. And she had to study Mexico, and we made little pigs, painted in the Mexican style like you'll see in curio shops and all. We made papier-mâché baskets and or bowls. We used a bowl as a form and made our papier-mâché bowls, and we painted those in that style. And I was just fascinated by it all. I loved the culture that we were learning about. I loved the art of it, and I just thought it was so absolutely wonderful. And in that year also, my little brother was born, and I just adored him. He was like my baby, I just thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And when he got to be in first grade, and for some reason his teacher wasn't quite finding the combination to help him learn to read, I was able to teach him to read. And that was another one of those seeds that sprouted. I thought of you, Helen, with your sister. Helen had much the same experience, I think, not because her sister had trouble learning to read, but because she helped her love reading. And that was another seed that was planted. So it wasn't, well, another thing, as I got older, I loved to dance. And as soon as dance was offered in my school, modern dance, I took it. I loved language, and as soon as language was offered, I took French, and then I took Spanish because I thought it was so amazing to be able to speak other languages and relate to other people and learn more about them and all. So all of these things that were planted in childhood, I can see like, wow, isn't that interesting that I ended up being a teacher in a bilingual school. I ended up here teaching, starting the Spanish ministry so that I would have a place to speak Spanish and combine it with science of mind. And now that's so beautifully taken over by our wonderful practitioners who are native speakers. Somebody came to me once and said, as I was doing this all myself I can speak fairly decently in Spanish, but if people talk back to me, that's really challenging. But he said, I was like, oh, wait a minute, But this guy came up to me, he said, that really takes a lot of guts. He said, here you are, not a Spanish speaker, and you get up there and talk to us in Spanish and teach us all this stuff. Yeah, I guess I'm brave beyond my wisdom. I don't know. But it was so satisfying to me. And so I took modern dance in college, and I through college, and I just loved it. And so all of these things are pieces and parts that showed up later in life and are still there. Sometimes we lose track of the things that we love to do, and we get busy with other things because life is full of challenges, if you haven't noticed. And a lot of times love will come along and kind of throws us off track, like that song says, It's like you think you're going one way, and oh my goodness, here's this, and then there's probably marriage and oftentimes family and responsibilities and trying to make a living and trying to keep a household together and all of this stuff. And we might kind of lose track of some of the things that we love to do. But there are also new joys as all of these responsibilities are taking over. But life does have its built-in challenges. I was thinking how I said once that people without challenges are the people we don't know very well, don't you think? Because whenever you get to know somebody very, very well, you discover that they have challenges just like we do. But the ones that survive are the resilient ones. And resilience is such an amazing quality. We may know people or even be people who can get knocked down repeatedly and bounce back again with optimism and ready to go. And don't worry about it. Just keep on going. Optimism, I feel, drives the will to thrive. If you are optimistic, you're always ready for the next thing. You get ideas because you know that there is another idea that's waiting for you. There's something else to do. Like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. When you think you can, ideas occur to you. When you know you'll find an answer, you will. Creative thought is at the heart of resilience. Creative thought. Added to optimism and creativity to help us realize our dreams is perseverance. We all know the story of Thomas Edison and the many failures that he had on his way to his very, very many inventions that we appreciate so much today. And we also, of course, there are just so many people to think of, but Rawlings with her book, and it started so many of the Harry Potter books, and yet she was faced with rejection after rejection after rejection, but she never gave up because that creative spark was in her, that belief in herself. But I wanted to find somebody that maybe we haven't thought of in those terms so much, and not because he'd been in the news, but just I was surfing the internet looking for somebody, and Richard Branson came up. And I thought, well, that was a very, very interesting story, his life. We know him about his recent space trip trip to the edge of space, I guess is what we can call it, and how excited many people were about that. But I found the story of his process was where the interest was to me. He had dyslexia, and as a child and teenager was experiencing a lot of frustration with school, not doing well, because if you have dyslexia, it's very hard to overcome because the words on the page won't stay still. They're just not there. And they're all over the place, and it takes a lot of work. Many people with dyslexia are able to overcome that. But he said, this isn't for me, and he dropped out of school, which might have seemed like, oh my goodness, now what is he going to do? But it was really the beginning of a wonderful life and a search for new adventures at every turn. What happened was he started a youth culture magazine, and started with 50,000 copies, and he financed it by selling ads, and he made $8,000 selling ads to this magazine. And that began the entrepreneurial excitement in his life because he had hit on what it was that he was so good at. And so that went on, and he, in time, started a mail-order record company, which later became Virgin Records, and was it rose to be one of the 6 top record companies in the country, and attracted such people as Culture Club, Rolling Stones, and Genesis, and then encountered financial difficulties, and he had to sell it. And the story goes that he was totally crushed by that and shed tears over it. But obviously he didn't stop at that, because there was that spark inside of him that kept him looking for the next thing that would be fun and interesting. That's one thing I noticed in reading about him. He was always looking for fun and something that interested him. He made a lot of money, no doubt, but that wasn't the first thing he was thinking of. It was like, what's fun? What's interesting? What can I do that I want to do? And he went on, of course, to start Virgin Atlantic Airlines, and then now Virgin Galactic Space Travel Tourism, which is his new idea. He was always ready to find a new venture for his interest. So my point in bringing up his story is the qualities that led him to be excited about life in spite of challenges and disappointments. And I searched some of his quotes, which I thought were quite wonderful. I wanted to share with you. I thought this was so important. One, he said, engage your emotions at work. Your instincts and emotions are there to help you. And that is so important to think about when you're doing anything, is where am I going to find my excitement in this thing that I'm doing? How can I portray that so that I'm interested and it is interesting, okay? He says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're too small. That's an interesting one to think about. Don't be embarrassed by your failures. Learn from them and start over. And he says, you don't learn to walk by following the rules. You learn by falling over, getting up, and trying again. He said, my general attitude in life is to enjoy every minute of every day. I never do anything with a feeling of, oh God, I've got to do this today. So even if we wake up thinking, oh dear, I have to do that today, let's think of something that we will do next, or what can we do within that framework that would be interesting? How can we show ourselves in that? Because when we are letting ourselves shine, when we're coming, that is the God spark within us, then we feel optimistic, we feel alive, and we feel exciting. We feel excited, and I guess we're more exciting too. Okay. This I thought was a very important thought that occurred to me. It says, I said, being successful has to do with doing what you love. So if you're doing something that you don't love, but you're doing kind of an adequate job, I wouldn't call that success. But I think that if we're doing something we love to do, maybe the financial success isn't quite there, but we are enjoying our life. So I think that success has most to do with enjoying life. And even if we are needing to do certain things to survive, more or less, we always can find time to do something that we love. And when we find time to do something we love, we get energy. We're energized. And when we're energized, we're going to have new ideas and new excitement in life. I was thinking about somebody like Mozart. You think, if he had never seen a piano or touched a piano, he still would have had all that inside of him, wouldn't he? But it never would have been able to be expressed. It would not have given him the joy that it undoubtedly must have given him and has been giving us for all these many, many years afterward. But that God spark was inside. It's like it's there just waiting for us to discover it. And there's so many ways to express, even if there had. Well, this process of going within and seeing what you love creates energy and fires a rocket to our lives. If you can't be bored or depressed if you're doing something you love to do. Don't just employ your emotions at work, but employ them everywhere you go. If we look at our own lives, we can see areas where we might have stifled some of our interests. Sometimes a word of criticism from someone can shut us down. Maybe you presented a manuscript hoping that it would be published, a publisher would like it, and it was criticized. And sometimes with those kinds of setbacks, we just shut down. Well, then I won't send it to anybody because I guess it's not any good. Or maybe a critical word from a parent or a teacher could make a person feel that they can't sing or they can't dance or they can't write or whatever it is. And so they stop trying, or we stop trying. That's where persistence comes in. To be able to accept rejection and just keep on going. If you love to dance, dance. If you love to sing, sing. If you love to write, write. If you love to learn new things, keep on learning new things. If you want to teach, there's all kinds of people to teach. Kids always need to be taught something. So find an outlet for what you love. And be careful of self-criticism. Sometimes we think if we can't excel at what we love to do, that we shouldn't do it because we're not good enough. I had a friend that was a very good musician and wanted to go to Juilliard and sent his, in those days, I guess it was a CD or something or other, off to them. And they were interested and they wanted him to come. So he did go. And then they said, well, we really like what you do, but we don't think we're going to let you into Juilliard this time. And so he really gave up his music. And that was so very, very sad. He did become a teacher, but that dream of being a performing musician died simply because somebody didn't consider him excellent enough. And that, I think, is very sad. As a child, I was thinking about my own experience. I took piano lessons because I loved music and I wanted it to come through me. And after I'd taken about a year, for some reason, my teacher put me into a third grade book. And third grade music book is pretty hard for a person that's only been playing for a few months or a year. And I would work at it and I would get there. But it was a lot of work, but I still enjoyed it. But when I went and got into college, I didn't take piano anymore. And I always felt like, well, someday I'll do that again. And every now and then I would sit down at the piano and get out the hard pieces and try them again. And then I met a man who had a piano in his house, and he had very simple music books of tunes that we know, you know. And I sat down, I go, oh my gosh, I can play this. That's so much fun. Only because it was at a level that I could actually enjoy. And it didn't mean that I'm ever going to be a concert pianist, but there's just something about that meditative feeling of being able to concentrate on the music and actually have it work, but not try for something that was so far above me that I couldn't succeed. So I thought that was an important lesson. But from this experience, I learned that we don't have to be perfect at something in order to be able to give a gift to another person of what that is, because this friend of mine was not a great pianist, and yet because he did that and he enjoyed his music and he did it at a simple level, that was a gift to me because, oh, it opened my eyes. So I think that we need to know that in our own imperfection and lack of excellence, we are still gratifying ourselves as well as giving a gift to others. I like today's Bible verse a lot. It says, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a stand where it gives light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. This is a profound message if we consider what it's really telling us. Our light is our passion, and the Bible is telling us, let that so shine that it can glorify the Father within, because God within us is just wanting to be expressed. And when we do, it gratifies us, but it also gratifies those who are around us. It's like when you see somebody who is truly enjoying what they're doing, it's like a magnet, isn't it? It's like we want to be that. We want to learn from that. It's even in seeing Jennifer and Lauren in their singing, to see the expressions on the face, to see the joy, to see what the words mean. With a song that Lauren sang just before my talk, she wrote that song herself. And then to sing her own words and her music that she's made herself, playing the piano, how gratifying that is. And if we look at her face, when she's doing that, we see that joy of creative expression. So when we let others see our enthusiasm, we're giving them a gift of ourselves. So I think sometimes in childhood, we might get the idea that being humble is a virtue. I know sometimes maybe women, girls, have that situation more than men do. But to be humble and to not think, don't ever look pompous or like you think you're great or anything like that. But it's so different. It isn't being pompous or thinking that you're great. It's simply letting your light shine. And anybody that wants to enjoy the light can enjoy it. If they don't want to, they can turn around and look the other way, I guess. Okay. In Ernest Holmes' quoting today in Science of Mind, he says, we must remember that the energy back of constructive thought is spirit. And I'm thinking constructive thought. Constructive thought is optimistic, creative thought, isn't it? That's constructive. He says spirit permeates everything. Hence, constructive thought calls forth the best out of any particular experience. Our creativity comes from that spirit which is within us. As we call upon us, it answers us. We can be persistent and resilient because we have faith in spirit. We know that the will of God is for us to express ourselves and to live joyously. This is the way that spirit is expressed in the world. Spirit wants to be joyful. Spirit is a joyful force and operates through us. If you're at the point in your life where you feel that some dreams have been put on hold because of responsibilities, don't give up on your dreams. Find some way to express what is inside you, even if it's just to spend a half hour a day or an hour a week doing something that you truly love. The gift in that is twofold. It's in what you're actually doing, which is a pleasurable experience, but it's also in the energy it gives you to do the rest of life. If you've ever noticed that, if you take a break and, I don't know, listen to some music, go for a walk or something and come back to what you're doing, you're energized because your mind has had a chance to look out and sort of smell the flowers for a while, and that's producing energy. The energy can be used to give more passion to your work or more patience to your relationships. It's a gift to yourself and to all of those around you. If you're at a point where you feel that you've done everything that you have to do and what else is there, remember back to when you were young and what really excited you and what you might have put on hold. Think about how that could be expressed. It might change forms. If you are a guy and you played football and you really loved it, you might not be going to play football at 70 years old, but you might think, why did I love that? I love perhaps the camaraderie of the guys that I was with. I love the competition. There's other ways of having competition. So think of how to morph your love into another channel if it needs a little bit of changing there. Also, to reach out to other people in any way that you can. Calling a friend that you haven't called for a while, or somebody that you think, I don't know, that person hasn't been around, and you call that person and you give that time. If you've ever noticed the gratification that you feel and the energy that you feel, it's as much a gift to yourself as is a person that you've called. But find a way to be useful to someone or someone in your community, and you'll find new life flowing through yourself. Life is meant to be enjoyed. It's an inside job, not dependent on anything that's happening on the outside. Give the gift that is yours to give. Meditate to open your mind. Pray for guidance. Pray to be aware of life's opportunities and to use your God-given gifts. Life is good. Let us rejoice in it. That's my message for today. Okay, at this time, I'd like to just have us close our eyes, a little prayer. Giving thanks to God for this time that we've shared together. Giving thanks for our ability to share with our church through the offering, to share with each other through our smiles and caring, appreciation, our gratitude for this beautiful day, for the life that is within us, the presence of God in our lives always. Say it in word of blessing on those who might be going through special hardship at this time in some way or another, knowing that if that is on your mind right now, or care for another person, that God is always here for us, always at the center, a rock that we can depend on. We build our faith as we go. And in those times when life seems good and things are going well, we are able to use that time to grow our faith, to grow our appreciation, to, as it were, put faith in the bank for ourselves so it's there as we need it. Being prayed up, as Dr. Juanita Dunn used to say in practitioner class, be prayed up, meaning we are prayed up all the time so that when we need it, it is there for us. We are already resilient. We are not immediately learning how to be resilient, but we are resilient by habit, by the way we live our lives, the way we think about our lives. And so this gives us courage, and it gives us optimism, it gives us strength and joy, and we revel in that right now. We thank God for this time together. And saying the blessing from the Bible. May the Lord's face shine upon you. May his countenance shed peace in your life. We are so blessed, and so it is.